Hi everybody, welcome back to those of you who've been hanging with me some time, and welcome to those of you who are new to my channel. I'm Adele Levine, intuitive and medium. All right, it's Halloween. This is Halloween. This is Halloween. Halloween, Halloween, Halloween. All right, so it's gonna be Halloween this weekend. So this whole month, obviously, I try to do things that are legitimately, on the real side of things in the spiritual world and, the afterlife. Hold on. And the dead, versus to kind of more commercially silly versions. So in other words, I want it to be fun and carefree in talking about these things, but I want to give you real information. So I thought I'd do my last video of this month, meaning the month of October and a time everybody's into all these things, about this. Can your house be haunted? Or how would you be able to tell if you are living in a haunted house? And of course, I'm going to reference you to one of my other videos on haunted houses, like hauntings and what I feel about that. So I'm not going to go over the whole shebang of how I feel, but I will say that hauntings are not quite what you think. It isn't a spirit that followed you home, contrary to what the Haunted Mansion tells you. However, there are people who have paranormal activity in their homes. And I want to kind of just jump to, helping you understand and differentiate between maybe just kind of a practical, commonplace understanding of what could be happening in your home. Like, in other words, to simplify it, is the electricity flicking on and off because you have a problem with electricity, or is there really something going on? So when I say the term, is my house haunted, or can your house be haunted? I don't believe spirits are haunting you like we think, like, I'm going to come haunt you when I die. I'm going to come make your life, a difficult place. It's kind of more the idea of like, I'm not going to let you forget that I'm here and I'm alive, or I'm not alive in body, but alive in spirit. And I'm here in your home, going to causing havoc. No, I don't believe that's what goes on, but I do believe that when we are open to these things and we're paying attention to these things, which people do at this time of year, people are very much talking about the dead, being interested in the afterlife, whether it's in a fun way or whether, is there a fun way or not? However, there is a way to kind of tell the difference between, is it my imagination, so to speak, or is it really happening? And the reason why I say so to speak is because the imagination is kind of connected to you being able to see beyond this realm. So let's get to certain things that will be telltale signs, okay? Now, when people come to me and they're saying, Adela, I have paranormal activity. And no, not like the movie. By the way, the movie Paranormal Activity just made me chuckle. It was very silly. They're very silly. And I get how it could be chilling, but it really isn't the way it goes down. So knowing if your house is having paranormal activity or haunted, however word you want to use, one of the things you want to look for, is this consistent? Are you consistently having something flick your lights on and off? Are you having, and you've already checked all and you're like, listen, there's no electrical problem. Although I will say that if it's serious paranormal, rewind, serious paranormal activity happening in your house, it's not to say that there can't, or they can't mess up the electricity or kind of even, shoot off the fuses and things in the fuse box. Yes, it's true. This is consistently happening, then that is what I look for. So when people are asking me, is this something paranormal? Am I being haunted? I usually ask certain questions. What is happening? When is it happening? And how consistent is it happening? Is it happening? So those are the three questions you really want to ask yourself. if you're going to bed every night or even during the day, if your same light is going on and off, or even different lights, and you're like, it goes on and off, and then all of a sudden, I say something like, I don't want this to happen, and it stops. If you are noticing that when you go to sleep that you're feeling tapped on your shoulder, or you're hearing something kind of next to your ear and it's consistent, usually when there's things happening, it will be very subtle. That's my point. It's not going to always be like here we are, I am the ghost of Christmas past or Halloween past or whatever, and I'm here to give you this message. It's going to be very subtle, like, you feel like something poking you. You may see the light next to your bed kind of flick on and off a couple of times. You may even see the bathroom light do something strange. You might even notice like something kind of just feels like it jumps off of the table. Now, that's not so subtle, is it? No, it's not. But what I mean by that, by jumping off, but I'm saying like, if you're noticing like, it looked like something fell over, but there's really no reason, it's not enough to make you go, oh my gosh, I'm freaking out. But you're like, that's really strange. That's really strange. Now that's really strange. And if consistently you keep having these strange things happen that you can't quite explain because you've already checked this out and you asked someone else in the house, did they do this or do that? Then I would say you can look at that this is probably something paranormal happening to you. When is important. That's the second one. When is it happening? What hours is it happening? Is it happening like after you may have talked to someone in your life who has passed? Has it happened after you decided on Halloween to take out your little Ouija boards and spirit boards and little pendulums and decide to conjure up the spirit world? And you notice like, well, nothing really happened when I did that, but now I'm having strange activity. Or after you like meditate and speak to the other realms and say, please, connect with me. Is it happening if you're just having just kind of a mundane day? You're just going about your business, getting groceries, whatever, and you're noticing these things happen. That is definitely something to pay attention to as well, because it doesn't necessarily mean it has to be connected to you purposely conjuring it. So the when is kind of coming more from like inside yourself. Like if you are noticing it's the same time, you can connect those dots and go, well, it seems like every time I talked about this, or maybe I go into this room and, this room particularly, that's the when. Could be the where as well. This is when things start to happen. In other words, things do have a consistency. Even the when, even the where tends to be consistent when it comes to the hauntings, okay? Thirdly, the time of day is important. I usually ask people what time. Most of the time people are finding this between 3 and 5. It's not because this is necessarily only the witching hour or the time where everything magical happens. But you're going into kind of a dream sleep and you're kind of opening yourself up and you're kind of being more open to that world. But also it can happen, let's say maybe when you're driving, in your car on the way to work and you're by yourself and you're just kind of zoning out. And the reason why I ask those things is because this is also when you kind of open yourself out, when you're kind of in a zone. Maybe it's when you're doing yoga. Maybe it's when, you're sitting there with your coffee, because I've had people say this to me. And I definitely pay attention to where in the household, the area that things are happening. And what I'm trying to do is to get you to identify first, is this really happening? Is there something really happening in my home? Is it consistent? Now, for the rare folks out there, and leave in the comments below, have you ever had, these types of occurrences happen at all? But for the rare people who have had poltergeist, which is very different, poltergeist activity, they are here, that type of thing. You guys know the movie. People who have that, which is much more rare, you are going to see things flying off the shelf. And I'm talking about for real, like if you witnessed it, and be practical about it and be grounded about it. And you're like, it was me and my friend, and we just saw something fly off the shelf. If you're witnessing your lights just go crazy and then, shut out. If you're witnessing suddenly something kind of feel like, it not only walks into your space, but you feel like a coldness. And the reason why I say cold, because it's not necessarily true. People think that when spirits in that realm, or you're having a haunting, that it's always going to be cold, just like they show in the movies and stuff. No, not necessarily true. But it is true when it feels, what I've come to understand is that when it's an unwanted spirit, when you're like, we didn't want this, like it's not your uncle, it's not your friend or whatever. It's like an energy that you are not choosing to connect to, kind of is creating that. Have you ever seen the movie in The Sixth Sense? Yes, I'm going to reference it again, guys. In the movie The Sixth Sense, I see dead people. And they show that whenever, right before he sees a spirit, it gets cold. Well, that to me was somewhat accurate, because it is spirits who are like not really connected to you. He didn't, if you notice, he doesn't see that when he's talking to the therapist. He doesn't get cold, but he only gets cold when, sorry, spoiler alert, because I gave something away there. If you haven't seen it by now, it's been a lot of years. The little kid is like a grown ass man with a big beard. So I shouldn't have spoiled it for you. But the therapist is, he's not cold, but it's always the ones that are a little upset. And I think they try to imply when they're angry, but it is kind of a vibration. So vibration is temperature. You get where I'm going here? So if the energy is a little bit not coming from the like pally, I just want to chill with you mode, yeah, you might experience that. I've had people who've experienced that, or that chill up your spine type of thing. And those are the things you want to pay attention to, but it needs to be consistent. So in other words, if you've had this once in a while, and it could be just like grandma or someone you knew who was just trying to let you know, hey, I'm still alive. But if you're consistently having these activities over and over, what's happening is not only maybe the spirit in this, connected to the space. And I don't mean connected where they're like attached to that place, like they only want to be in that house and they're like, get out, this is our house. I mean, just maybe there's a connection to the house because they used to live there, or they died there at some point, or something like that. That's more the connection I'm talking about. And it doesn't necessarily mean they're obsessed with the house, and that's what people think. But they also bring along, and they kind of open a door to other energies that from the other side, other energies that are like, hey, this lady, this gentleman, this little person, child, whatever, seems to be very open to talking to the spirit world. You guys, you got to come check this out. They're going to listen to us. So that's kind of what I'm talking about when I'm saying like haunting, that yes, it's true. You could kind of look in and realize that someone died in the house or something like this, and there may be a connection. But you also need to take into account that if energies were active in that space, then they definitely tend to kind of like keep the door open for other energies that have nothing to do with the space. However, if all of these consistencies are happening, if you're having things move and consistently, and that's what I mean, not just like, oh, one time I saw this and another time I saw this, but you're like, every time I go in this room, there's something going on. Every time when I'm going to sleep, then you need to go check out my other video on here, which is how to cleanse your space. You do need to set boundaries. It is something you can get a hold of, control over. I do cleansings for people in their houses when they tried all those things. We've done all those things, they'll tell me, Adela, and it didn't work. They are still coming in, and I'm still, they're still causing havoc. And that's when I kind of come in and be my Ghostbuster self. And yes, I call them spirits, but in jest, I call them Ghostbusters. So the thing is that once you've gone through that and you said, okay, I do feel like it's consistent, then you can say that there is something happening. And then, like I said, go check my video on how to cleanse it, because you want to cleanse it, you want to set boundaries. And this is what I always say to people. Would you leave your front door open and say, hey, everybody, whoever wants to like come in here and hang out is fine, as long as you don't, create a mess, because that's what people do. They're like, oh, I let them come as long as they don't, I say be nice and, don't cause too many problems. No, you don't do that. You don't do that. You set the boundaries. You say only, this is a place only of light with good intention. Those who are not of good intention, you can't communicate with me and leave. It doesn't mean they leave. I know people see it that way, but they pull their energy back and they're not allowed in that space. And you keep in mind who you feel that you want to connect to. And it might be like a relative or something, and have that in mind. All right. So I hope that helped. I wanted to kind of remind you guys about my Patreon. You guys are joining my Patreon. That's awesome. I'm about to post another post, especially for October, on my Patreon, but I want to appreciate all those who joined. It's $5 to join. You get 35% off of all readings. And also follow yourself, follow no one, listen to your inner voice, and happy Halloween.